Smith, and how did you come to establishing Enlighten?
Okay, great. So I am Meghan Martin-Smith, a young mom who just enjoys life and love experiencing new things.
Mm.
And Enlighten is one of that experiences that I had. My son, who is 8 years old, loves education. And I think it was installed in him from a young age. And we had COVID, which was a very dark period, but it was a blessing to me because I had time to spend with my son. I've
Mm.
been in education and training for a number of years, and just seeing him want to be part of, just developing himself was great. And then he ventured on to school and then aftercare. And when he was there at the aftercare facility, he realized that a lot of the kids can't read and they were in higher grades as him. He came home very concerned and said, Mom, they can't read, they're already in grade 4. And when we spoke about it, I said, can you just assist them? And he then said, yeah, I can, but just as innocent as a little child, what is he going to teach them? And he said, can't you help them? I was like, okay, I'll speak to the principal and we will discuss that. I then started a pilot last year, which was very successful, but I also realized that there are so many gaps, not just with in education, but with us as parents, as much as we want to help our child, we don't always have the know-how or the availability. And, there's just life happens. And so Enlightened was birthed out of him being curious and compassionate about others, wanting to see that they are able to just conquer the language. And then also me just hopping onto something that, I see the gap, I see the need, and allowing myself to just invest in that area as well.
I love it a lot that it came, from a place of really wanting to help, from your son, just really being honest, as little kids are very honest, like, oh my goodness, this is happening, and what can we do to help? And then mom takes over and says, okay, let's do something about this. And it is an absolute real problem, it is a real problem in our
Mm.
communities, that a lot of children don't know the command of the English language. And it is not that we are amplifying English and saying that it's more important than other languages, but it is a way of communicating. Wherever you go in the world, English becomes that language of command. And so it's important. It's important. So, um, in terms of enlighten, so I'd love for you to just draw out or explain to us, how does enlighten go beyond the traditional classroom learning, the programs that you've implemented, and how do you go ahead with those?
Sure. So enlighten, just as the word expresses, is to just show or give one that enhancement, the ability to be aware of something that now gives you some sense of power. And so every child, they step into a classroom and it can be a very intimidating space, especially for a young child who has never been in a space like that, or ones that are also transitioning from primary school to high school, or just as if, like in every year where a child has to go from one class to another. Having an educator sometimes becomes overwhelming and they are not able to, especially if they are struggling, they are not able to get that one-on-one attention. So what I've allowed in this program is that I cater to individual classes and small sessions. And I do think that kids learn best when they are in a space where they are met. It's not just, oh, this big classroom, there's a lot happening, but where am I and how do I get to express my needs? And so Enlighten allows or affords the foundation for that, as well as making it fun. And I think what benefits me is I had to dig up. I don't have much experience in the foundation phase, but with raising my son, I needed to, just dig into what does this actually look like and why do they say that kids learn best through play? And so I did my research. I've done a few just short courses to understand what it would look like for a child. And so many of the programs that I have or the material that I've put together are very playful. It's us just playing a game with the language. I'm looking at one of our very um, the games that we play usually, like snakes and ladders. And I want to try and just change that into a space where, or just a card that now speaks to the vowels and the sounds, because that would make a big difference, as well as obviously the numeracy skills that they do learn. But how can I incorporate that? So that is the just an example of what I'm trying to bring with Enlighten.
Mm, I love it so much, and I love that it's a supportive environment. It's an environment that is made for a child to thrive. Now, something also very important is that you mentioned that no learner should be left behind. What does that look like in practice when you say no learner should be left behind?
Okay, so I that line in itself is very deep to me because as a young child, although I appeared very confident and kind of love structure, and I think from the outside people just thought, oh no, she's got it together, she knows what to do. But the truth was that I didn't have the words. I didn't know which words to use and how to put them into sentences, and if I'm actually sounding okay.
Yeah.
And then when I was in high school in grade 11, I remember picking up a textbook, and it was obviously now then filled with a whole lot of English terminology, and I needed to find, how am I going to understand this? And when I'm saying that every child needs to be heard and every child needs to be seen, is to give them that language, is to give them the vocabulary that they need in order to be confident, to be able to voice themselves and allow for a platform where it's not that I have to shy away. It's not that I don't have the language, but how can I be empowered to be that and to have that in the society that caters for so much? And yet I am feeling like this individual that is kind of blurred out because I'm marginalized. I already feel like I don't know much. And I just want to give them that platform and that space where they get to understand that they have the words, they have the vocabulary, they know what it is that they want. They just need to find how to put it into, their thoughts and then verbalize them.
And you know what? You do need that extra bit of attention when you're growing up as a child. I'm definitely proof of that. For me, I struggled a lot with maths growing up. But once I started getting a tutor, things became different. I started passing. I did very well, especially in grade 8 and in grade 9 I did excellently. I used to get maths awards because I had a tutor.
Love it.
So it goes a long way to have someone that is walking with you alongside you, in order for you as the child to thrive, or for you as the parent to also feel confident that my child is learning, and they're getting all the developmental stages and understanding the work that is needed for them to thrive in the world. Now, I would love for you to highlight some changes that you've seen with learners ever since joining Enlighten, and just those memorable moments, those moments when it's just that aha, like, yes, Lord, this is exactly what we were aiming for, and it's happening right now. So it's a moment for you to boast a little bit, to boast in the work that you've been doing.
It definitely brings a smile to my face just thinking about those beautiful moments and these young beings that come into a space. And obviously, I'm also the person that they don't know in the very beginning. And that could also be intimidating, but they are very welcoming of the space and wanting to be there and willing to be there. And so in the very beginning, with every session, I allow them to introduce themselves, because I've noticed that a lot of us, you're asked to say who you are, and then you can't even, beyond your name, what is that? And the first time this young boy came in, he cried and he was like, I want to run away. And I said, okay, it's fine. You can sit down. The rest will then follow, whoever wants to go. And every week, just allowing him to see that others are confident, or giving him the language, giving him questions, or just certain statements. By towards the end of last year, he would raise his hand first because he is going to introduce himself first. So that was a very proud moment, for a child that was shy and scared and, just felt really terrified of this experience. At the later stage, he was very willing to get up and say, I'm here, this is who I am. Another one was um, a young boy who his English is, I think it's like his third or his fourth language, but he's placed in a school within our community, and he has to learn English and Afrikaans. So he doesn't know, he doesn't know where to start. He had his own challenges with regards to school. And then we were learning phonics, and another boy joined one week, and he said to the child, so the one letter was W, and he needed to remember W, and there was J. And I said, what don't you like to eat? He said, jam. He was like, okay. So he now remembered, he connected it to jam. And then he said, then I asked him, so now, which word do you know sounds with what? And he said, water. I was preparing the lesson, and then he sat with the other boy, and they were going through the letters. And he said to the boy, what for water? What for water? And I was like, that is it, where they now have so much confidence, and they allow themselves to be expressive, and then also want to pass that on to others. And I think that is the greatest way kids learn.
Bravo, bravo. That's so, so beautiful. It's amazing to see it all come full circle, that exactly what I have implemented through God's help, of course, because, you're not doing this on your own. It's definitely about that
Exactly.
full surrender to God's call to help and assist children with language barriers, and, to help them to reach all their goals. Now, empathy is something that's very close to my heart, and I'd love for you to just relay how empathy and encouragement shape the way that you teach, and why is it so important?
Okay, I think it's in our human nature. That's something that is really deep, and so especially looking at the work that I'm currently doing, it does stem from a very deep place. Last year I was retrenched, and I was like, Lord, what do I do? What am I going to do next? I really felt like I don't want to go back into the 9 to 5, but there's bills and things to pay, but I just had to trust God. And one day I was cleaning, and I just started crying, because it was like the words were coming for something that I need to start. And it was the very thing that is now called enlighten. And when I think about my heart, especially towards these kids that are facing challenges, especially in the area of language, it definitely runs deep for me. I can sympathize, because I was once that child, and then obviously with that comes the empathy to understand that this child just needs someone. They need someone to say, I'm going to pass on the baton, and I'm going to make it better and help you make it different in your world. And so from the child that um, I didn't like reading, I hated the dictionary. I let my parents read every night to me. And if I fast forward many years later, I do understand now that we are lifelong learners. We are always going to learn. We're always going to need people along our path to strengthen that. And in it all, I think God is just so amazing where He takes the one thing that you found most difficult, most challenging, and He takes that and He turns it around and He uses it to bring some light and life into other people's lives, especially the ones that I now get to um, encourage and tutor through this program.
Absolutely. I'd love to know the future of here on, Megan. What does it look like? What are the plans that you have for this year going ahead? And what are the things that you'd like to implement?
I've got some exciting things. I've partnered with a good friend of mine within the community, and we are looking at having some type of family day where we don't just speak to the child, but we speak to the parents. And I think one of the greatest gaps that we've um, noticed is that, this triangle in terms of the learner, the parent, and the educator, it's not always fulfilled because of our busy lives and school having a strict curriculum that they have to follow. And then the child just having to, be stringed along through all of this. We want to come in and support in terms of giving parents practical examples of how to sit with your child for 5 minutes. What does that look like? What does games look like? I do want to start a little kit that would then also be dedicated to my son. As a young child, we called him Munchie, and that kit would be called Fundamental Munchies. Um, but basically, with phonics cards and little games that you can play for short periods with your child. And then I am also just really excited to see where God would lead, um, the rest of 2026 and enlighten, because I think not I think, I know that most of what I get to do is reliant on the wisdom that comes from Him and what is poured into my spirit for um, the next chapter.
Absolutely. And I would love for you to give out your contact details or website or anything, that is related to how can a parent that is listening right now get through to you when they need assistance for their child.
Okay, so if you are a parent that is looking for a tutor, just someone to help you,
Yeah.
you know, along this journey. My contact details are 071
Mm.
931 4301. You can contact me directly or you can send me a WhatsApp on that number. You can also find me on Facebook, um, and my profile there is Meghan Martin-Smith. And on TikTok, Miss Smith, MS dot Smith with an H. So yeah,
Excellent. Thank you so much, Megan. And please do continue doing the work that you're doing. May God continue to extend your territory. May you continue to touch young lives in this profound way that you're already doing right now. And may God bless the work of your hands. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
thank you, TC, for having me. This was such an improv, request, but I do love the fact that there is a platform for businesses and just to reach out and let people know that there is help. There's someone,
Absolutely.
you know, in our spaces